So thank you all for joining the session. So I'll start off by letting all the panelists introduce themselves. And then just to give you some background into the structure, we're going to run it in two parts. So the first part will be run as a webinar. So we'll just have a bit of a Q&A, have some questions to the panelists, which I'll moderate initially, but then we'll open the floor to some questions from the floor. And then we're going to do the second half as a case slam, which will be quite interactive, go through the structure of a case as it would be in a normal case interview, and have you guys participate in the case. So we're hoping that will be super interactive and everyone will get a lot out of the session. And yeah, so to start, I'll give you a little bit of background about myself. My name is Nolita. I'm a consultant in the London office. I'm originally from South Africa, like many of you, it seems, which is wonderful. I've been in London for the last 3 years. I'm a doctor by practice, but started in the London office a year ago, and I'm currently in the private equity practice. So I'm going to hand over to John, who's also co-hosting, and then we'll walk through the rest of the panel.
Thanks very much, Nolita. Hi, everyone. Good to have you. What joy seeing the numbers just, tick up. A bit of an introduction from myself, John Igwe. I work right next to Nolita here in the London office. I joined BCG 4 months ago, and I've come with 10 years of industry experience in energy. So if you're wondering about whether or not that sort of move is possible, then you've got me as a good example. I still do a lot of energy work today, and I'm having an amazing time here at BCG so far. So good to have you with us.
Great. Maybe bio.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's weird you get to sort of ex-energy folks back to back, but it is what it is. My name is Bayo Olavi. I'm from Nigeria. I worked in the energy industry for about 7 years before my MBA, and then I joined BCG as a consultant in 2019. So I am currently a principal. I'm part of our climate and sustainability team. And as you can imagine, I still do quite a lot of support to energy sector clients as well. I also double as one of the co-leads of our Afro-Caribbean network, but a little bit about that in a bit. Hand over to Rennie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rennie. I'm a consultant in the London office. I joined BCG as a senior associate about 3.5 years ago. So I can speak a lot about joining as an experienced hire. Prior to BCG, I also spent some time in the energy sector, but I worked in investment advisory. So essentially was advising PE clients that were looking to invest in the energy space. I came to BCG because I wanted to broaden my sector experience and my skill set, and I've been able to do that. I will hand over to Inko.
Hi, I'm Oyenko. I'm Nigerian originally as well. I joined BCG a year ago, straight out of uni. So I'm an associate. I've been here just over a year. I studied economics at Warwick before. Still a generalist, not specialized in any one place. And yeah, I work with the BOLD network and with Dawn, accessibility now, which I will talk about a little later.
Great. So just one question. You've told us all about your backgrounds, where you're from, but we have another question. If you can tell us a bit about your background. So what careers are you guys doing? Hopefully we'll have some people in healthcare like myself, or maybe some in energy. There we have some healthcare. That's wonderful. A lot of corporate backgrounds we see, which is quite usual. But I'll just give everyone some time to answer, and then we can see how diverse our group is, which is really great. Okay, I think we just wait for a few more answers. Thank you for everyone who is participating. This is really great to see how many of you there are. We have almost 80% of you that have answered, so this is wonderful. Okay. Great. So it seems like we have quite a mixed group. We have people from accountancy, banking and finance. That's almost 30% of you. We have a really good representation of healthcare, 17%. That's wonderful. Education, 7%, IT, 7%, and others about 20%. So that's really great to see that we've got a mix of people across backgrounds. The second question we're going to ask is, what interests you the most about consulting? So let's see. And as you can see, some of the options would be solving complex problems, which we love to say that we do, and working with a diverse global workforce. As you can see that we've got, even within our BOLD network, we have people from different countries, exposure to different industries. Although we have a lot of energy people representing today, we still have the option of being exposed to different industries. As I said, I'm from a healthcare background, but I'm doing private equity. So, okay, looks like we've got a lot of answers back. And it seems almost half of you want to join consulting to solve complex problems, which is wonderful. And good mix between the rest, exposure to different industries, working with a diverse global workforce, and career paths and prospects after consulting, about 12%. So yeah, that's wonderful to see. We're going to ask our BOLD network to answer some panel discussions, and then I will stop talking and open it up to the floor. So just maybe to start, we'll ask Bayo, who's our most senior BOLD member on the school, to just give us a brief intro into the BOLD network and what it's about. So Bayo, if you can take over.
Yeah, sure. Hi again. So BOLD at BCG is the Afro-Caribbean Diversity Network within BCG Lab. So Lab is London, Amsterdam, and Brussels. So we run a combined system, and the BOLD network basically takes care of all our diverse talents across those three offices. We really are structured around three pillars, right? The first pillar is really about getting the best talent into BCG, getting the best talent to consider BCG as an opportunity, making sure that they are prepared as best as they can be, and have all the information they need to succeed and present themselves in the best light to get into BCG. And so that recruiting pillar is the one that does all of our interactions with universities at the sort of undergrad level, at the MBA level, and through sort of cross or intersectional things like what we're doing with BYP. We also have a collaboration with Women in the City Afro-Caribbean Network. Then we have the second pillar, which is really around retention or affiliation. And you could argue that that's where a lot of the cool stuff happened. A lot of the events that we put up, we usually have a takeover in October, for example, for Black History Month. And so that's on the fun side, but we also have kind of more serious things like the mentorship programs that we run, the partner champion programs that we run, to make sure that when the talent joins, they find a home and they stay and they succeed. And then the last part is really around what we call sit at the table. So this is really about the decision making and the interaction with the broader diversity and inclusion network within BCG. This is where we intersect and interact and engage with the leadership of BCG to make sure that, you know, when decisions are being made, we are there and we can input to those. So that's a kind of like a rough intro to the BOLD network. We were happy to say we've been growing since I joined in 2019. We've been doubling every year. So we've gone from a fairly small network to one that is now able to put up, you know, events and have 50% of us turn up, and the room is still pretty full, which is something that is success I'm really proud of. Just the trajectory and the traction we've had over the last 4 years.
Amazing.
I'll leave it at that, and I'm sure we would have like specific questions on the networks later, so we can pick it up then. Okay,
great. So the next question I have is maybe you can tell us about how you're involved in BOLD networks and other affinity networks. Maybe I'll ask Oyinkan to answer that one.
Yeah, sure, happy to. So involved in the BOLD network, which Bayo has talked quite extensively about. Additionally, I'm involved with accessibility at BCG, which works with inclusion of people with apparent and non-apparent disabilities, mental health struggles, people caring for people with these conditions as well. BCG obviously has lots and lots of opportunities for you to affiliate with many different, there's women at BCG, there's accessibility, BOLD, families at BCG, military at BCG, there's lots and lots, right? And so I think it's a great thing because it means you can find your crowd, you can find people who have similar experiences as you in BCG, find everything from friends to mentors to support resources. And yeah, I literally just put my hand up and said, hey, I would like to help. And now I'm sort of heading up the mental health section of accessibility and helping out with recruiting at BOLD as well. So lots and lots of opportunities to get involved where you would like to.
Amazing, Oyinkan. Of course, we're very passionate about intersectionality, so that's really great to see our BOLD members being involved in different parts of BCG. Rennie, do you have anything you want to add to that one? What your involvement in BOLD has been, or any other?
Yeah, so also work mostly helping out with recruiting, specifically for experienced hires. I think this is important to me because when I joined 3.5 years ago, it wasn't obvious as an experienced hire or someone that was experienced looking to get into consulting that it was like a known path in. I think we all know that BCG hires people at undergrad, but experienced hires was less known then. So it's important to me now being at BCG, kind of growing that pipeline specifically for Black people. So that's an area that I'm involved in. And I think just to echo what Oyinkan said, the network really to me is community support, affiliation. I think coming in, it's a super large organization. It can be quite tricky to navigate. Again, especially as an experienced hire, in my opinion, because you don't come in with other people that went to the same university as you and things like that. So I really appreciated just having the network when I first joined, literally from like super informal advice to, I think Bayo or Hassan sent me like their sample decks and things that would make my life a lot easier. So I really appreciate that because it's necessary in this job.
Great, thanks, Rennie. And Bayo, I'm going to need that sample deck. So the next question is, if our panel can maybe tell us one thing you love about being a consultant at BCG and one thing you find quite challenging, because of course we know that it's not always super rosy. It is quite a demanding job, and a lot of people have said they wanted to join us for the complexity. So perhaps I will start with Bayo, who's probably been the longest here, and then we'll see. If anyone has anything else, Bayo, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I can go. We all ask for complexity, and when you're asked why you want to do consulting, is yeah, I love the complexity, but believe me, you get it in boatloads, right? And I think I enjoy it. So I don't know how much you know, with the strategy consulting industry has probably evolved a little bit. There are so many dimensions to what it means to help a company through their strategy today. Before, it was all about frameworks, and some of you probably know the BCG matrix and learning curves and all of this classic strategy concepts that BCG invented over the years. But today, that complexity has added new dimensions, right? You have things like digital and AI, you have climate, etc. So the complexity keeps exploding. My favorite part of the job, and I do a lot of strategy projects, is helping clients kind of simplify and figure out a way to make a decision in what is fairly complex environment that you will not have all of the information that you need or you would like to have to carry on. So that's why I joined. I've gotten it in boatloads. I've enjoyed it. I think if you think about the way BCG is structured now, you have the classic team that most of us here are part of, but you also have our digital teams. You have people who have specialties in things like supply chain. You have people who have specialties in things like product development. I've been fortunate that, you know, as part of my work, as part of the cases that I've done in BCG as well, I've been able to work across from both your classical consulting team to bring in some of the newer BCG capabilities as well and routes to solving sort of complex problems for our clients. Nolita, did you want me to cover what I didn't like at the same time? Because I think it's just directly on the flip side of that. Everybody talks about work-life balance. And I think for me, the challenge is part of the things that I do at work. I also like my hobby. Like I'm genuinely interested in the space that I work in, climate and sustainability. So finding that switch off point, being able to disconnect fully is a big challenge for me, because even when I'm on holiday, I'm probably reading everything that the economist has to say on the topic in my space, even if I'm not on the case, right? So that's an ongoing one. I think the solution that I'm using to manage it now is to find physically intensive things to do that you can multitask. That's direct advice from my doctors. Like, you need to do a lot of cardio. You need to do the stuff that leaves you breathless, right? So that you can genuinely think about it. But that I think is an ongoing challenge. But it's also, you know, BCG has introduced over the last 2 years quite a lot of focus on mental health, on how to manage stress, on how to, you know, bring mindfulness into your day-to-day life. And these are sort of tools also that I'm finding super useful to manage. I'll stop talking and let someone else add to that.
Amazing, Vira. Thanks for sharing. Rennie, do you have anything to share?
Yeah, I think so. In terms of what I like about BCG, I would probably echo a lot of what Bio said. I think for me, the breadth of experience really is great, especially early on in your career when you're not quite sure what you want to focus on. So it never gets boring from that regard. And another thing that I like is that you get quite good at jumping into things that you never have seen before and doing that very quickly and being quite good at it. And I think that's a good skill to have, to be honest, because literally you could be doing, I guess, an energy project, and then you have to do like financial institutions the next week. Like, it really is that crazy. So I think that's something that I just appreciate the skill. I feel confident that I can read things pretty quickly and get up to speed fast. And I just think that that's something that's necessary or helpful to have going in your career. In terms of challenges, I think on the flip side of that, jumping into things with no prior experience and having to ramp up quickly is actually really hard. And I guess it depends on your personality. So I'm someone that likes to feel like an expert, to be super confident and convincing. And so at least that's how I was. And so I had to learn how to come off as super confident and convincing, even though I literally had only looked at something for 2 hours. And that can be quite daunting at the beginning because I just really always wanted to feel like an expert. So it's quite challenging. I think, you know, the longer you stay, you realize that you might not be an expert on a sector initially, but you're an expert on being a consultant. And I think that you get confident in that, and that, you know, you can look into anything in detail. So I would say that's probably been the most challenging part of my journey.
Amazing, Rennie. I can echo that, especially of no experience higher. So that's really great. Rinkan, anything to add there?
I would say my favorite thing about being a consultant is definitely sitting in rooms with really, really intelligent, really experienced people talking about really interesting topics. Now, like Gen AI, generative AI is something that everybody's talking about. And in every case, just sitting and hearing what MDPs or client counterparts have to say about where they think the world is going with Gen AI or with blockchain or whatever. It's great for me. That's what I came in for, and like seeing that expertise in different topics and being able to access that knowledge upfront is great. On the flip side is the fact that you're constantly working with lots of different people with lots of different working styles. I think in lots of jobs, you have one team, you have one manager, you spend a month getting to know them, and then after that, it sort of just is an upward trajectory from there. Whereas I do, on average, my cases have been like 6 weeks long. I've had 10, 12 managers since I joined BCG. Everybody has a slightly different style of working. Everybody has a slightly different definition of, what does a good agenda slide look like, for example? Some people want 3 columns, some people want 2, and it's learning, but there's a pro. It means you're learning very quickly how to work with lots of different working styles and how to adapt to different requirements of you. But I think in the beginning, that definitely took some adjusting to for me.
Amazing. Thanks for all those insights. So we're going to open up to the floor if anyone has any questions. We already have some questions that we're going to start answering. So the first question is, how effective was your onboarding and helping you transition, and how clear is your progression pathway? This question, I think the best person to answer, the most recently onboarded, would be John. So would you like to share some insights on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm happy to take that one. So I think the most exciting thing about onboarding at BCG is it starts long before your first day. So I remember receiving emails to portals and trainings. I come from a very engineering background, so it was interesting to try my hands on some finance and feel a lot less like an imposter when I actually started. So that really helps you get the ground running. And then I sort of came into a 2-week training period where all I did was get trained as well. So you get lots of BCGers coming through the room. You're looking at soft skills and the tangible skill sets for consulting as well. So I feel like going into my first case 2 weeks after starting I was really prepared, if you like, for that. And then it continues, on my first case and my investment case, basically given the chance to try some of those things that I learned, but you sort of get coached as well. You get guided through that, and it's all paired with formal trainings as well, which for me are still ongoing. I got reminded today and I thought, oh, I haven't actually done this training. So you're set up on a strong learning path, and it's really up to you to take advantage of the steep learning curve when you get in.
Wonderful. We have a question here, which is about building a strong personal brand in the consulting industry when pivoting from another sector. I would love Bayo to answer this for us. I think you have a great, strong personal brand and you pivoted from another industry. So perhaps you can give us some insights into how you've excelled in this.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one to answer, to be honest. I mean, you want the brand to be emergent rather than something that you tell people, right? Like, so if you're coming from another industry, so what I mean by that is, if you're coming from another industry, you probably have a lot of technical knowledge or context that is immediately useful to the teams that you work with. So that's already something that you can become known for. And I think if I reflect on my own journey within BCG, I spent 7 years in energy before joining. When I did my first energy case, there was a clear difference in terms of like how critical and how deep I could go very quickly on the problems, right? So that's something that helps. But then I think also being in an industry that's very big on feedback, but also in a company that believes that the things that really make you special are your strengths. So we all work on weaknesses to some level so that they don't become an hindrance, but we really genuinely believe you should lean into your strengths, whatever that is. I think after the first few rounds of feedback, you quickly start identifying what are those strengths, what are those things that really make me special, right? And then, yeah, that's a good thing to lean into. So by the time you combine your industry cognate knowledge you bring in with a few of your attributes, whether that's problem solving, or being able to communicate in a very crisp fashion, you have 2 elements of your brand right there. But it all emerges from the work that you do, right? And how you respond to the feedback that you get. You don't need to over-engineer it. That makes sense.
Amazing. Thanks, Bayo. It seems like we have a few experienced hires in the room, everyone. So the next question is what experience you would need to, I suppose, pivot into a career in consulting, and how can you add value within the firm? Rennie, as an experienced hire as well, I was wondering if you can give us some insights into how you see this.
Yeah, I would say it's not really about specific experience, i.e. you don't need to have worked in investment advisory or another consulting firm, right? A lot of us have quite varied backgrounds here. I think it's more around the transferable skills. So key things that are super important in the job, I would say problem solving is number one. And just kind of in whatever space you've been in, demonstrating that you have done some analytical thinking, even if it's not necessarily building models. If you were a doctor, that already kind of demonstrates that you're used to thinking in that way and solving problems. So that's something that would sort of stand out. I think another thing is communication. That's really important. We're dealing with clients all the time. And I think verbal and written communication is something that's really important in the job. I think written communication literally comes across from how your CV is written. That's probably like the first thing that the recruiters would see. And then I think throughout the assessment process, verbal communication is something that we would be looking for. And I think the last thing probably is impact / your track record in whatever you've done. Have you, like, what sort of impact have you had in the spaces you've been? It could be university, the societies you joined. It could be in the organization you're currently working in. What have you done to sort of drive your team forward? Those are things that are quite important from an experienced hire perspective. But like I said, it's not really about your specific background. I think once you can show those transferable skills, I think you're well suited to kind of do the job and grow.
Amazing. Thanks, Rennie. So guys, in the interest of time, I'm going to suggest that we move on to the case part of the session. But thank you to our panel for all joining. We will have some time for some questions at the end, and Georgia and Lucy will continue to answer some of your questions in the chat as well. So thanks to our panel. So I'm going to hand over to John now to walk us through a bit about the case interview process, and then we can do a fun case together.
Great, thanks, Nolita. I'm certain you're all really excited to go through the case with me, so happy to lead you through that. We'll approach this in two, segments. First, I'll take you through the why, the how, and the what of the case interviews, and then we'll jump into an actual, case study session. You might be wondering why case interviews. There's two major reasons why we do that. Is it helps you really understand what we do, and what we do at work is basically solve these problems. And a case interview is basically taking work that we've done as BCG and walk you through that process to sort of, give you a flavor of what we do at BCG. And the other reason is to see how you solve business problems. It's quite exciting to see 42% of the participants today said that was why, they wanted to join BCG and consulting. And it gives us a chance to really evaluate how you perform, in real life. But it becomes important to note that it's not the only metric. So how you perform on the day is an important part of the evaluation, but bear in mind that we're looking for a lot of other things. So your experiences in life and work, if you volunteered, if you've, started a business, we've got people from military, ex-founders, and how you've basically performed outside of life. I think Rennie spoke to interpersonal and communication skills. It's a client business. You're working in teams or with clients 90% of your time. So you've got to bear in mind that we're looking out for that on your profile as well. Looking at the what of the process as it relates to case interviews. So for those of you who will apply and hopefully make it through the CV screening process, you go through 2 rounds of interviews, and that will make for the total of 4 interviews. So 2 per round, and each one will be split into 3 different parts. The first is discussing your experiences. So again, like I said on the previous slide, what you've done, what your achievements are, and what really makes you tick and likely to succeed at BCG. And that will take about 15 to 20 minutes. The bulk of the process, which is the actual case study session, will go through 20 to 25 minutes. And I'll skip that because we're going to actually walk through a case in the next 20 minutes together. And then obviously at the end, you get a chance to ask, questions. We've seen some of the very interesting questions in the chat. You're quite keen to understand how you can help and what industries you could do work in. And so you get a chance to actually ask those questions during your interviews. Preparing for the interviews. Now this is where, it gets really exciting. So we thought to, put the slide out to you as well as you think about, joining BCG. So there's 4 key things that we look out for in how you handle the case. The first would be to structure your approach to the case to make sure that it's clear and actually really clear. You also want to ensure that the way that you analyze it is quite robust. So when you think about a client having a problem, you want to be able to look at the widest possible range of drivers in a short period of time. So you want to make sure that you're showing us that you're able to think, wide and deep as well. We also want to see creativity. So show that you're thinking outside the box. I think Bayo spoke to the fact that the industry has transitioned away from cookie cutter, if you like, frameworks to ingenious creative thinking on the spot as well. So you want to make sure that you do that. And at the end, your recommendation has to be super clear and concise. You think that you're going to have to take weeks and months of work and put that on one slide. And that's exactly what we'd like to see when you actually approach a BCG case in your interviews. And the 4 top tips, if you go to the www.bcg.com, there's a couple online case studies on there. I'm sure that you probably already know about the other websites that you can practice on. You also want to practice with a buddy. We normally recommend practicing with the same group of people so that you get consistent feedback and viewpoints. But also don't forget to be on the interview given site so that you can actually get a chance to think about what you'd be looking out for if you had to hire someone yourself. We recommend doing a video recording of yourself as well, just so you can check your posture, your body language, and technology fails us usually when we need it the most. So you want to make sure that goes out the way. And again, you can't really over practice. You want to come in as confident and as clear, as prepared as possible on the day. So sort of enough of the prepping. I think we can go straight into an actual case. We'll try to make this as interactive as possible with the polls. I invite you to really engage with the subject because this is actually taken from an actual case done by BCG. So in the case that we'll be looking at today, the client is called Cupid's Arrow, and they're an online dating agency. They run a subscription-based model, and they've been very successful. The client operates exclusively in the United States, where they actually lead the market, and they're thinking about, coming into the UK online dating market. So the key question that BCG has been invited to answer is the UK market an attractive one for this specific client to enter? And that's the question in the case. So if we go to the next slide, we sort of think about how attractive do we think the online dating market is? And these are like, the key questions that we thought to ask and answer when we actually did this, sort of case for the client. So the key tip on this slide, first of all, is ensure that you write your structure very clearly so that you can refer back to it. Because throughout your case, you might find that you need to sort of go back to it. And the 3 key questions we asked were, what are the industry trends in the UK? What do the competitors look like and who are they? And what do the customers actually want? And I'm sure that if we leave this open to all of you, you might come up with different approaches. It doesn't mean that they're wrong. It's just the fact that there'd be different, approaches to solving any problem. So we're going to give you some data next and ask you to sort of share with us what your thoughts are about it. So I'll give you a couple of moments to look at this chart, and you can just pop in the polls what you think this data suggests about the UK dating market.
So we're just going to give you some time to answer, and then we'll let you know.
Yes, we're starting to see the answers coming now. So okay. Yeah, we're about 50% now. We'll just wait a couple more seconds and then we can go on here. Okay. Great. So I'm quite happy with, the answers that we've seen. It's a fast growing market. We see that the market has grown from about 86 million in 2015 to about 300, if you like, in 2024. That's forecast. We also see that there's a few dominant players, Lovebirds and Happy Hearts and Match Me Up, sort of control the market, and that really is in line with the majority of you. Just looking at the answers again, about 70% of you got that right. So we feel like we're in good company with the crowd today. So as regards to what this means for the client, it's a big market, it's growing. So that's the first thing you want to look at. And then, it's dominated by a few players, but then we need more information to be able to reach a conclusion of any sort. So thanks a lot for your participation on that one. And so now that we know that the market is big and growing and that there is indeed some dominance, the next thing we wanted to find out for the client was, are there any similarities, with the customers that they're used to in the United States and the ones that they will be working with in the UK? So again, I'll give you a couple of minutes to look at this chart in detail and sort of tell us what you think the data suggests.
Sorry.
Yeah, the poll's just gone up now.
It's nice to see you guys taking your time to answer the questions. You see there's some thought being put into this. So we're hoping a lot of you have maybe joined the dating app.
Yeah, we're up about 25%, so we'll just wait a little longer. Finding. We're almost at half. And we'll cut it off at 60%. Once we can get 60% in, then we'll, in the interest of time.
Great.
Yeah, amazing. So you've performed even better than in the last question, and we're really happy about that. So what we see here is that the customers in the UK market are, if you like, differently price sensitive. In the US, they're willing to pay a higher price, as you see in our clients' performance and in that market. So it starts to, give us a sense of, the differences in the customer base between one market and the other. And then that sort of leads us to, the next question. Now that we know how the market is segmented from a price point of view, what the client found out is that they really understand the US market well, because they're the market leader and they've only ever played there, but they're not very clear on, the perspectives around online dating in the UK. And they really need to land whether or not these differences are significant enough for them to approach the UK market different to how they approach the US market. And the question to you is, how might the client better understand, the customer's perspectives in the UK? How will they go around, sort of gaining that insight? So we'll leave that one to you as well to sort of answer.
And we'll probably cap this on at 1 minute, so if you guys can get your answers in the chat as quick as possible.
Yeah. Don't overthink it, just rely on your dating app experience. Amazing. So, yeah, just looking at the responses. Yes. So you've again performed excellently. You said that they could perform market research by, interviewing customers or just running surveys. You've also said that they can, source market analyst reports for historical data and forecasts, and that's sort of how, we went about this action, how we'll do it as BCG as well. Amazing, great job. So as we move on then, we did go out and we got the information from the client about the customers. We did the survey and the results came in. So would like for you to take some time and analyze the data that's come in and tell us what you think this data suggests about the UK dating market. Yeah, we'll cap this at 1 minute as well.
Come on, let's get a few more responses in before we reach the limit.
We're almost halfway there, so. Yeah, so we've got to the 50% mark. I think we can stop there. So again, majority of you have, chosen the right option. It's option D, and we're really excited when you get the answers right. It just shows that, yeah, we're sort of in good company. So what the data actually shows is that a larger proportion of people in the UK believe that there is still stigma around online dating, even though they believe that it's on the decline. And so when you take this and you tie it back to the client's question, we've established that the market is big and it's growing. We've seen that the customers are a bit differently sensitive to price. And we've also seen that there are differences, in the way that the customers sort of perceive the product, which is online dating as well. And the next thing that we did for the client was that after they'd understood, the customer perspective, the size of the market, the growth, and all of that, they've asked us then to size the opportunity. So they think that this could be attractive, but then just not certain whether or not and how to proceed given these differences that we've seen in the data. And then they've asked us to come in and size the opportunity of going in as a premium online dating solution using a top-down approach. And so what we therefore need to do is focus on the volume. So what is the number of people in the UK who would potentially sign up for a premium online dating service, such as the one that our client is offering? So again, when you think about that question, what we want you to do is take a few seconds and think, how would I structure, such a calculation? But more importantly, what key assumptions, what are the drivers, what are the levers, and what assumptions do you need to make to actually size that opportunity? So I'll leave that for you again, a couple of seconds to a minute. So you could pop that in the chat if you don't have the poll, and let us know what assumptions you'd make to size this. Yeah, there you go. So the poll's up as well.
great to see. Some people are very confident, answering super fast, and then it's nice to see the spread across the answers as well. Okay.
Yeah, we're getting to the 1 minute mark. We're almost at 50% as well. So keep them coming. Yeah, great. So it's nice to see again the spread that you've got across the options that you've chosen. And this is sort of how we structured it. So we started with, you know, the population in the UK, which is about 66 million, and then we segmented that by, you know, what target age range would actually use the dating apps. And we think that's between the ages of 20 and 60, which we think is about half, you know, the population as well. And so we looked at what percentage of that target age range is actually single, obviously making the assumption that, you know, only the single ones would use the app. And then how many of those are actually interested in online dating? We've seen from the data as well that there are people who don't really believe in online dating because it's a stigma. And then finally, what percentage of those will be willing to pay for a premium service? And, you know, just a very few quick tips. I'd like to say at this point that if we asked 5 of you different to set this calculation up, you probably would set it up differently. You probably would make different assumptions, and that's perfectly fine in an interview day. We're not really looking for a final answer that's correct to the decimal point. No, it's basically about how you think and how you structure, but also how you understand what the key drivers are and what the key assumptions to make are. So now you've seen the number, we've seen the market size, we've seen the growth rate, we've seen the customer behavior and preference, and we've also seen, you know, sort of the size of the opportunity in the niche that the client is trying to go into. So open question here, based on the analysis of the market, do you believe that the market is attractive? And given the client's strong presence in the United States, what benefits does that provide if they were to actually come into the UK market? So take a few seconds again, think about how to structure an answer that's very, you know, concise, and then look at the polls and please choose the option that represents your response. Has the poll gone up?
It doesn't look
No,
like it.
no, not yet.
But it's okay. Feel free to write in the chat. The question is, do you feel that the UK market is attractive? And you can have various reasons why you do think it is attractive, why it's not attractive. And we'll just have a look over at the chat and see if there's any insights from there. Let's see. And perhaps you can also answer the last question as well in the chat at the same time.
Yeah.
Anyone's brave enough to answer? Do you believe that the UK market is attractive? Or John, do you want to give us a perspective? No.
That would be cheating.
Thanks for your honesty.
Okay. Yes, we've got a few answers. AJ says it seems attractive. Yes. Felicia says she thinks the market is attractive for the occasional type of dating. Attractive is relative. We'll come back to that answer. Waladay says not attractive. People still have stigmas. There's people who want freemium overpaying. Fair enough. Ramona says external source, the UK market.
Less attractive due to the.
I almost took
rather
that seriously,
cost of
Ramona.
living.
Thanks for that.
Okay.
Yeah. I would love to show you the data again. Unfortunately, Nonfundo, we're running out of time.
Dating is an expense. Thanks for all of your views. I agree with some of them.
Yeah. Right. So there's one particular answer that I'm just going to take up because I think that it shows the way that, you know, we would want you to do it on interview day. Ayusha has said she's got bullet points. She says attractive points. The UK market will nearly double in size over the next 2 years. Cupid arrows, they can work around better by analyzing the stigmas and purposes of using the service in the UK and market their product accordingly. So that is a sort of, recommendation that we want to see. Sometimes you find, and we've intentionally made it so as well, that the data can be interpreted either way, but having a strong justification for your recommendation is super important, and being able to back it up with actual data that you've seen during the case is one of the key skills that we actually look for, at the case interviews. So I think I can congratulate you all. You've made it through your first BCG case. And then please, if there are any further questions, feel absolutely free to pop them in the chat and we'll take them in what time we've got left.
I do like that last point about it might shift towards the soulmate segment. That's a wonderful prospect for everyone. But as John said, in the interest of time, let's just ask you, if anyone has any questions, you can pop them in the chat, and for the last few minutes, we'll try and answer them as best as possible. But it's been great that you guys were so interactive with our polls, and we had a lot of people who gave the right answers, including the medics, so wonderful. So if you have any questions before we close off, if you just pop them in the chat, and then either John or myself will try and answer them. And as Ramona mentioned in the chat, keep an eye out for the follow-up email to get a survey as well. Okay, so one of the questions is, what are some of the professional qualification opportunities within BCGs, and what are the relevant eligibility criteria? I'm going to assume you're referring to opportunities within BCG to do advanced degrees or different training opportunities. And yes, we do have a program for that. There's a whole pathways division within BCG, which you can discuss with your career development advisor and apply for things like an MBA program or even a mini MBA program. And that's done in consultation with your career development advisor. There are some requirements, but yeah, there's definitely opportunities for that. I also know even people within the BOLD network who've gone to study other sorts of degrees or taken some time out to go do a PhD, for example. So yeah, it seems there's plenty of opportunities there.
Yeah, and I can take the next question. We've got someone say that they're currently studying law, but they have quite an interest in business. Do we have an opportunity for law students and graduates? And the answer is a resounding yes. I struggle to think of any background that really isn't represented within BCG. That you've got ex-pilots, you've got a medical doctor. I used to work on offshore platforms, and just about anyone, if you're able to go through, the process of showing that you're able to think the way that we think, empathize with your client, and perform really robust analysis to come up with solutions, you would find yourself at home here at BCG.
And I see there's a question for me from Nomfundo. I'm assuming you're South African. What type of work do we do in private equity? So we have a big practice across industry practice areas. So they do a bit of TMT, they do some healthcare. I'm on a healthcare strategy case at the moment, which I'm loving, but I don't exclusively do healthcare. Sometimes I'll do some tech or energy projects. We mostly do due diligences, but we do some strategy cases as well. So a broad range of opportunities and clients and exposure. And as mentioned, I'm a medic. So there are definitely opportunities for experienced hires, as John has said. And, look out for the follow-up emails, and do keep in touch. If any of you have any more questions or want to connect, feel free to reach out to us. And thank you so much for all your engagement today. It's really been a pleasure talking to you all. And good luck and happy coronation for the people who are here this weekend.
All right, we'll be looking forward to receiving your applications. I'm sure Georgia and Lucy are available to answer any questions again in the future. And thanks very much, Aman, and the rest of the team for having us as well.
Yeah, we'll hand over back to you if there's anything more from your side, Aman.